Good afternoon, Ron.
Good afternoon, all, although I cannot say a word.
Okay, mute. Put it on mute. This might be fun.
It's so muted, I can't stand it.
By the way, you guys are doing such an amazing job keeping straight. This is a really busy and a short month too. So thanks again. We'll get there.
Corey, I can say something before the meeting starts. Put a smile on your face. You look really.
I got a bunch of screens going on. I'm just kind of like making sure we're all good.
Corey, I think I got everything up and running.
Yeah, it looks good.
He's busy, Ron.
He's trying to check all the buttons I just pushed.
I guess we're just waiting on Lisa then. Not Lisa Westbrook, Lisa Murphy.
Yeah, she was logged in and then she logged out. So I'm not sure what happened.
Okay.
Hi, Ed.
I'm going to be right back. I think I left my agenda on the computer. Hi, Ed.
Greetings. I'm sorry, I was on the other screen working while I was waiting and it was on mute. Hello, everyone. Hi, Barbara. So Corey gave a number of us a class of instruction the other day on the logistics of being a host. So we're getting a little more up to speed with the committees. We wanted to make sure the meetings ran smoothly, and host, if you haven't been a host in Zoom, has a number of other command functions to help manage meetings. So this is a kind of a real-time exercise in this first committee. And I think Corey's going to join us just to make sure we don't fall flat on our face. But in the future, Corey will not be attending the committee. I think there's Melissa was on that, Abby, Lisa, myself, and a couple others. So depending on the committee meeting, 1, 2, or 3 of us will be able to host. But at time, mostly it's just going to be Melissa, I believe. But she may need assistance because it depends on public participation and other things going on. But I think we're getting there on Zoom and how to host these meetings. And in board meetings, Corey and Melissa will continue to tag team.
Correct.
Sorry. Corey has any word from Lisa?
I'm not seeing anything where she's joined. She was on just a moment ago, but then she clicked off.
I guess we'll give it a few more minutes.
I mean, I can give her a call.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that would be good. Would
Okay,
you mind doing us a favor and doing that?
absolutely.
Okay. Although Ron is here, you know, and we could have an at-large member if there's no response from her. But we better wait till we have a response for her one way or another, I would think.
Corey, I have Lisa on the phone. She said she can see all of us, but for some reason, or she can, okay, she can hear us, but we can't see her or hear her.
She's not indicating that she's part of the Zoom meeting.
Okay.
She might have to disconnect and re-include because I don't see her on the participant list.
Okay.
Do you think she got in with the public access avenue and not the board avenue so that
It's all the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So the public and everybody has all the same link. So I'm not
There we go.
sure. There she is. She's on there now.
So this is going to be Lisa's first time chairing a meeting. So we'll all make sure we succeed here.
And this is my first time running Zoom, so I'm going to do my best. When Corey goes away, I'm flying on my own.
This
can
is how
do
our
this.
kids, you know, our kids are winging it like this too. It's hard.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
different.
Hey, Lisa.
Yeah, she has herself muted and also her camera turned off.
So my camera is not turned off. It just doesn't work. There we go. It hasn't been working with the TUD links, which is interesting. I teach with it every day, but okay, give me just a second because I had everything pulled up, but then it went away. So get the agenda again. All right. All right. So we'll start by calling the meeting of the Human Resources and External Relations Committee for February 4th, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. on, looks like, is this Facebook Live or YouTube Live?
YouTube.
YouTube Live. All right. And our first go at using this platform. And I guess we start by opening it to public comments. If there is anyone here who would like to speak, I don't see any public in the room. Okay, then I think we move on to the first discussion item, which is Human Resources and External Relations Committee purpose.
Well, I'll definitely start. I can't remember, Ed, if you put this on or if I put this one on. But in any case, it's good to, I'll just sort of say what I had in mind with this. Again, human resources, it's always good to take a look at our employee needs, our staffing levels. We're going to be moving into probably having a water department, and this is a good committee to, you know, receive some of those big employee changes. I believe last time some of the staffing changes and upgrades and transitions were on a certain schedule in the CIP. And at some point, I'd like to kind of discuss that so we can maybe break that out a little bit and have that a little more front and center and maybe not just on a schedule. And I just think also our website also, stuff that we have some great suggestions or ideas. We have talent right here in this committee, and it's always good to be able to, I don't know, just keep updating and working on our page. So with that, anybody else have anything to chime in on for the purpose of the committee? Did I do such an outstanding job? Nobody has anything else to comment on?
I think so. All right, any other comments before we move on to the next agenda item?
Can I just say something else really quickly?
Go ahead.
I think the purpose in general of these committees is for all of us to have an informal opportunity to work together and not feel like we're in that big formal setting of an actual board meeting. And this gives us an opportunity to work stuff out, have some back and forth discussion before. It would probably be you, Lisa Murphy. We're just a recommending body. And then we would just do our committee report then without taking up so much time, like hammering out the policy. And so I just see the value of this. Okay. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Yeah, and for us, Barbara, thank you. We are, I'm glad that you took the reins on that, because we're just here to listen at what the board's pleasure is and what types of issues that the board wishes to know more about when it comes to human resources and our public relations and community outreach.
Great. Good.
Excellent. So looks like the second discussion item.
Is there any committee recommendation for this item at all, or?
I think it's just general discussion.
Okay, and that's fine. We can just put no recommendation. We can, it was just a discussion item. Okay.
All right. And it looks like the next, yeah, these are all listed as discussion items. Because I don't think we make decisions in the group, correct? In the committees? Is that
That's correct, but the committee can make a recommendation.
Okay. So discussion item number 2 is cell phone and electronic device policy. So I'm going to open it up to discussion. And on this, I see that this is a draft. Is there a policy already in place, or is this the first version that TUD has had?
Yeah, so good question. This is, as I mentioned in the background, tried to give a good summary of that, but no, there is no current written policy for cell phones.
And currently, some employees do currently have district-owned cell phones?
Yes, we have a number of employees. We have 15 that have district-issued cell phones. We have district-issued cell phones for on-call personnel that stay with the department. So whoever's on call moves, they get the phone and take it home for their week call. And then we also have district-issued tablets, iPads, Surface Pros, laptops, things of that nature. The number of district issued cell phones has decreased over a number of years, mostly because many employees have opted out from them because they didn't want to carry 2 cell phones. So we saw, if I may, Director Murphy, I can just summarize what the policy is. Okay, great. So thank you. So yeah, this item is for this committee to consider recommending to the board approval of this policy. And so As I just mentioned, we don't currently have a cell phone policy or cell phone or electronic device policy. However, we do issue them, and we do have plenty of employees who do use their cell phones frequently for business related issues. In this, the policy would apply to any employees so we're recommending that the policy cover not only district issued cell phones, but allow for a stipend to employees who do use their own personal cell phones for business use as a reasonable reimbursement for that. And then also for employees who do bring their own cell phones to work. Everyone has cell phones now, mostly smartphones. I don't know if we have any employees that don't have a smartphone, but I would venture to say it's close to 100%. And just to talk about some of the safety guidelines as far as using your personal cell phone while you're working, whether it's related, we have a specific section to operating a vehicle, which obviously prohibits use of a cell phone, whether it's a district issued cell phone or on business purposes or for personal use. And then also some prohibited activities that we have with respect to cell phones and accessing the Wi-Fi network. We are looking at the stipend program this has actually been a several year process. I drafted a cell phone policy in 2016 and have circulated it. Steve's seen probably a couple of iterations of it, and some laws changed after a Supreme Court decision for the city of San Jose with respect to personal cell phones, personal emails, and the access to public records on personal devices. That sort of put a pause on our program at the time. And then we finally are pulling the trigger, and we thought, okay, what's the perfect opportunity with the HR committee to bring this policy to you for discussion and hopefully adoption at some point if you guys agree with the policy. So what we're asking for is to hopefully you review the policy, ask questions, but then we would like to have a recommendation with preferably the option of both a stipend and a district issued cell phone with the provisions that are in the policy that you have in front of you. And I think I'll stop there and then maybe just open it up for questions from the directors.
So it looked like this is Lisa Murphy. It looked like there's the option of $15 per month voice only and $35 per month voice and data. And it looked like from reading it that it was the supervisor would make the recommendation to the general manager, and the general manager would approve the employee being eligible for the reimbursement, right? How would it be determined if somebody needed, like, would that be the supervisor's determination if they needed voice or voice and data?
Yeah, actually, it's really the department head. So that would be like for operations, that would be the director of operations. Ultimately, if there's some kind of dispute or they can't come to an agreement, then the general manager has ultimate authority, I believe is what the policy actually says. But yeah, they would make a determination. We already have an eligibility list. We know what classifications need cell phones, which is how we've issued them in the past. We have some employees that just work in the field by themselves, work alone, and they just need to contact customers every once in a while, and we don't want them to have to use their personal cell phone number. We have the ability with what's called a Be Anywhere app to be able to utilize our cell phone through the app, and it comes through as the district's number rather than an employee's own personal cell phone number, which is nice that way. So that would be sort of the voice only, but then we also have managers, supervisors that maybe are away from their desk often, or are working from home and basically are contacted on a 24/7 basis depending on the emergency of the day. So that also have, like I said, use data more so with email and having to do maybe some research on some projects and things like that may need data versus just voice only.
Cool. And then thank you for clarifying that.
You bet.
And so it would be the administrator of that, those jobs
Yes.
who determine what they needed, and that would
Yes.
be then go forward.
Yes.
The other thing I was wondering on the privacy stuff, was that just on district owned equipment, or does that then extend to people's personal cell phones that they're taking into the field?
Would you mind telling me which section you're looking at so I can?
I'm scrolling really quick to find it. I read it earlier, and there was a privacy part that said don't expect it to be private.
Oh, that would be a district issued cell phone or tablet.
Okay.
Would be subject to inspection basically at any time. It's district owned. But it does make it clear that any district business emails, texts that are district related on a personal device are subject to the Public Records Act. And that's.
Say that last part again.
Any district related texts or emails that are on a personal device, whether it's a computer, a laptop, a tablet, a cell phone, are subject to the California Public Records Act.
For the folks that are out in the field.
For any district employee or
Right.
district board member, yes.
Yeah. No, but what you were just referring to is the field staff, and so just and they're aware of that if they're using their personal phone out there, then they are. And people are in agreement with that. They wouldn't prefer just having a district-owned phone.
Well, that's that's why we have the two options in the policy. If they prefer to have a district issued cell phone that they just use for business purposes and they don't use it for personal use, then that's fine. They can do that. If they'd prefer to use a single phone for business and personal use, it's explicitly clear that any district business, certainly anything on the network is open to the Public Records Act, because when we use our email, it goes through our district network.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, I was just curious because a lot of people in other places that I've worked have chosen not to use their personal phones in the field, just to keep it simple.
Yeah, sure.
And would the supervisor have the ability to decide whether it was going to be a district phone or the person getting a stipend for their personal phone, and they would have that option?
Yeah, ultimately, the department head does have the discretion on who would get a district issued phone versus available for the stipend.
Very good. Barbara, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Abby. That really clarified it. So I'm understanding this policy. There's a range of options. We're just, and above all, it's to, make sure that the district is safe out in the field. And I totally get when you need to look at a cost comparison, even if you're at a store or something, and we really are dependent on doing some research right there on the spot, let's say. So my question is, two things. What is our current data plan and how much does that cost district-wide? And that includes the board, because I know I have a special little deal where I live. Okay. And also what would be the increased cost do you anticipate of who would opt in on getting the voice and data and the voice only district-wide?
So currently, the recent bill I have, which is actually from December, is about $1,500 a month for the data plans and the equipment. Now that does include the board's equipment, the iPads and things. So with the number of folks that have opted out of the phones, It probably would be a little bit of an increase by a couple of $100 a month to do the stipends, but it also is reimbursing people for legitimate business uses. So it will eventually equal out, because we've had some folks that really do like to stay with their district plan. But we have group rates with Verizon and AT&T that do keep costs down low, which is where we got the stipend amounts from. So we did our research with Verizon and AT&T, and so the stipend amounts that you see in the plan do match what we're paying for the district without the equipment costs. So the liability goes down because the equipment costs are where we see ebbs and flows. And so while it was $1,500 for December, it could go up several $100s if someone needs to get a new piece of equipment. So I know that's not a straight answer, but it ebbs and flows. It's about $1,500. It may go up or down up to $500 depending on the equipment costs. But with the stipends, it should range within about $200 of where we're at now. The data plans, I do not actually know off the top of my head how much data. Ken Ingram, our purchasing agent, indicated that he has lumped certain groups of employees together in data plans to keep the costs down. So it varies depending on the position and the department for the data.
But ballpark, it would increase about at $200 a month, let's say, if we adopt the policy. And I'm sure we have that. Do we have that, Steve?
The other thing is, though, is that if these 10 plus employees do decide to opt back in, it could be the cost of a cell phone, which is $400 to $500 plus the monthly plan for that. So if folks decided, I don't want to use my personal phone anymore and I'm not being reimbursed for it, I want a district issued phone, it actually could increase quite a bit more.
I see. Oh, okay. So it's actually kind of a savings if we kind of pay them to use their own phone.
Ultimately, it is a savings if we do that. But like I said, there's variables depending on if someone decides that, like Lisa said, they opt and they say, I don't want to mix it anymore. I want to have a district issued phone again. Then the equipment costs are going to go up with the monthly cost.
Great. Thank you.
This is just a tax question. So most people who use their personal phones for work write off their personal phone. If you're accepting the stipend, then you can no longer do that, correct?
Correct, that's true. But the stipend, we have confirmed, the stipend itself for business related purposes is not taxable to the employee, but you're right, you can't get a tax write-off if you're getting a stipend.
Okay. Does that need to be in here, or is that just up to the employee?
Well, typically with anything like, for instance, uniforms or some other kind of compensation with employees, they would deal with that with their tax preparer.
Okay. So it doesn't need to be specified.
I don't believe it does.
Cool.
Steve, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I'll just chime in on a couple of these. I think Abby's done a good summary here. We did not go through a detailed analysis of every penny and every dollar on this because a lot of it's kind of unknown as to what employees will opt in or not opt to. But for the several years, Abby and I have been kind of looking at this. Really, our anticipation is it's going to be probably neutral or in cost, or it may actually go down because ideally, if the people take the stipend instead of this plan, our total cost should go down because of the equipment involved, because of everything else. And like Abby said, some of our phones, the number of phones have gone up or gone down and that sort of thing. Second of all, I'll touch on, Lisa, your question in there is that as a general rule, again, I don't do income taxes anymore. I'm full-time TUD finance director. But when I used to do income taxes, as a general rule, an employee can't write off the use of a cell phone. You have to be self-employed. You have to have a business on the side, something of that sort. So generally what comes down is it's either going to be a taxable item that's going to be added to their wages and they're going to get taxed on it that way. But this would not affect an individual TUD employee as far as their write-off on taxes or not write-off on taxes.
I'm going to push back on that because you can write off, and the standard is 50% if you're using it for work. And teachers have to use their, every professor, at the college has to use it. Every Park Service employee, every Forest Service employee is using their personal phones and not receiving a stipend. And the one way that you can get some of that back is two methods. One is through your tax write-off, and the other one is through the discounts. Like with the federal government stuff, you can get a discount on your data plans just by using your federal employee email address.
Well, thank you for the information. I was unaware of the income tax implications.
Yeah. But with special districts, I'm assuming that there's not a group discount thing. I mean, there might be. I think with a lot of the state and federal stuff there is, but I don't know with special districts how that works. Like
We actually, TUD employees actually for their, on the personal side can receive a discount with Verizon. So they have to show their pay stubs to Verizon. I think they keep it on file, and then you can get up to 18% discount.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, so you get that piece and then you'll get the stipend on top, which between the two things helps out a lot.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good thing.
My last question is, how is coverage? I just know that with my cell phone, coverage throughout the TUD district is not awesome. Is there, have you guys found, I know you guys have the two-way radios too, and you have some landlines out there and stuff. Is the coverage sufficient enough that personal cell phones work pretty well?
Yeah, so Verizon seems to be far superior in certainly the high country. There are a couple of tiny little pockets, like we have 2 employees that say AT&T is the only thing that works at my house. But
yeah, that's our case here.
But broadly throughout the district, Verizon seems to be, I believe, much more than half of our cell phones are Verizon. I would venture to say 3/4 of them are with Verizon because the coverage is better throughout the system.
Yeah. And is there, that would be the one thing that I would just hope that the supervisors would check on, is make sure that the personal phone that the employee is getting reimbursed for actually works in the job sites where they want them to be doing it. But that would just be, I would assume, at the administrative level in approving it.
Yes, and in the policy, we also state that it's expected that the plan is maintained and works for the purpose of this policy, and that it can, if we find that it's not working, or that employee is maybe transferred or into a classification that doesn't need that anymore, then the stipend would stop, and we'd make adjustments in that way.
Yeah. And you're saying that currently there's only about 15 districts issued phones that are used?
To employees themselves. We do have other phones that are used for the department, on call, things like that. Yes.
Okay, cool.
We have a couple extra ones in the office. I think actually Steve's folks have at least 1, maybe 2 that they've used in instances where we've got major power outages and then our Comcast is down, so that we have flexibility there.
Yeah. Just for my edification, what's the total number of employees for the district?
We currently have 78 full-time equivalents.
Okay, cool. Just getting a percentage in my head of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have our budgeted FTE is 84.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Just as a matter of note, while everyone's kind of regrouping and thinking about this discussion, this didn't just come out of the ether. Over the last couple of years, as part of the former strategic plan and then some of my performance standards, there was a comprehensive district review of all policies. And so we've been on a journey to look for old policies that are grossly outdated or need updating because of changing laws or conditions. This one has been talked about, as Abby pointed out, for a period of time. And one of the things that drove it currently is this COVID era we're living in and the increased use of devices. I think this originally was called the cell phone policy, Abby, and I think we broadened it to include devices because we've been purchasing Service Pros to facilitate telecommunications and distancing and so forth. So the time sensitivity of this was in the last few months has been driven by COVID.
That's interesting because I would have thought it would have been more driven by safety in the field.
Well, certainly that is probably its primary, but I think more so in recent days or months with the additional Surface Pros that were purchased to facilitate, we needed to have a policy that ensured appropriate use. But as I mentioned, the cell phone and safety in the field's been there. And then with changing laws, it went on hold. But Abby and I think, started talking about this again, I don't know what, 3, 4, 5 months ago. And she brought it back off the shelf to ensure that as we begin issuing these devices, that everyone's clear about what the rules are and their appropriate use.
Yeah, and Director Murphy, we've addressed cell phone use, certainly using vehicles since 2008, and we have a code of safe practices specifically to the safe use of cell phones and any devices while driving.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
No. I think we might want to, I do have a question, Abby. Let's say we decide to support this and recommend, this move forward, then which board meeting would this come up then, just as a recommendation and still as a draft, but we recommend it that you finalize the draft and then get it ready for board approval? Is that, I'm trying to get back in the swing of committees.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is what I am looking for, so that I can bring it back at the next meeting, which we've already posted for February 9th. So that would be February 23rd meeting. I could bring it back for, if your committee wishes to make a recommendation, then I can finalize and bring to that board meeting.
And so if let's say Lisa and I, in looking this over, see something, then we can certainly bring it to your attention then.
Sure.
Between now and it getting posted for that second meeting in February. Okay.
Well, and any changes to it would be highlighted when it shows up in the final?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's also important to note that Abby, I don't think you mentioned this, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but much of this, if not all of it, came from CSDA.
Yes, it was right. Yeah, I didn't verbalize it, but I did put that in the staff report that we used policies from CSDA, California Special Districts Association, as well as Liebert Cassidy Whitmore, which is our legal consortium provider, and they have template policies in addition to obviously make it unique to TUD anything else that we had to cover. So they've all been vetted. And then also I did send the policy to Jesse Barton, and he looked it over as well and approved.
Yeah, so there's a thorough, good source of, for these template policies. We usually do that on every policy. Why reinvent the wheel? A lot of CSDA and others have experts that really do a great job at least providing a template. And then what we do as a team is go through, make sure it fits exactly the needs of TUD. And then lastly, Jesse Barton, General Counsel, reviews everything before it ever goes to the board. So in this case, it was all done and then brought to this committee. There's been a lot of vetting to get just to the committee.
Cool. Yeah, and the only other question I have is this a standard practice among water districts? Because I've worked for a lot of different things where you're expected to use your personal phone, but never have worked for any place that offered an actual stipend for that. So this is, for me, an unusual thing to see. I'm just wondering if that is, I'm not against it or anything. It's just, I haven't seen this before. And just wondering if this is a standard, kind of a standard thing that's being offered.
So yeah, some of the policies that I pulled were from other water districts, both in our area that I use as a good source of, there's a number of us on the western slope of the Sierras that talk a lot about policies and share information such as this, but throughout the state. And there is, and there is a reasonable expectation for an employer to reimburse for the use of a personal cell phone, which we have, again, we've always used it as you are eligible for a district issued cell phone. So because they've opted out, then that has been the kicker. So there for the stipend, but now, we're just trying to kind of hone in on what's the policy and give everyone a means to way that they can be most productive, safe, and efficient while they're working for the district.
Yeah, thank you. You've totally wonderfully answered all of my questions. And I read through it earlier and I did read the whole thing, and I didn't see anything worrisome to me. So on that, I'm just curious what the difference between the draft will be and the final.
Yeah, unless I hear anything more from you, I will take off the draft watermark and put a date on it, and that will be the difference.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, are we at a place where we can recommend or not? Lisa?
Do you have anything more to say, Barbara?
No, I think that this does remind me, of when people are using their cars, that policy was developed way back when, their personal vehicle, and even, so I think this is very timely. So yeah, I'm in favor of this.
Very good. So in committees, this being my first committee meeting, and not having seen anybody else try to run one, at this, if we are looking towards recommending finalizing this and taking this to the board as a recommendation, how is that just what I say, or how does that work?
That's correct. And Abby, you had stated that you're possibly thinking of taking it to the February 23rd board meeting.
Yes.
Okay, then we can use that as the recommendation to present at the February 23rd board meeting for board consideration and approval.
And the finalized document would be in the board packet for all the board members to read ahead of time.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And then there would be discussion and we would vote upon it at that time. Okay, very good.
And just to add to that, it's my understanding that this committee packet goes to all the board members as well. Correct, Melissa?
That is correct. I'm sorry, I have myself muted, so guys don't have to listen to me typing.
Thank you, Melissa.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for your time answering the questions. Appreciate it a lot.
You bet.
All right, so then I think we move on to consider purchase and install of COVID compliant how do you say it? Dias? I
The
thought it was
first,
diacetyl.
the first time I said it, Dave, I've heard so many different things, Lisa. Any way you say it, you're right.
Okay, well, COVID compliant setup in the boardroom.
Yeah.
I actually did Google this to hear how it is, and it says on Google that it's pronounced dais.
Mm,
Well,
Yes.
now we're all
thank
correct.
you.
Because I didn't know either, Lisa.
Thank you.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Well,
All right, so let's open discussion on that.
I can start off. It just seems to me that this Zoom is working good, but at some point we may want to really figure out that we're going to be living with the coronavirus for a long time. And I know that CCWD is retooling their dais and putting in some plexiglass. And so I started, noodling around and looked at this one site. And, we may not be ready now, but it doesn't mean we can't begin to be thinking about a different configuration, such as a horseshoe shaped or an arch shaped dais. And one of the other things about our current dais is that it's awkward. I mean, even without the coronavirus, that L shape, I haven't really seen a lot of those. And it just is a little bit, in fact, it is awkward. Sometimes I have to put my seat back if I want to look at the director that's talking on the other side of another director. And it's just not conducive to kind of this nice equal setting. And now, of course, we need to be at least 6 feet apart. So I'm not definitely recommending that we go out and work on this tomorrow. I don't know if we even have it in the budget. I don't really know how much something like this would cost. I'm thinking we would want more of the modest, 5-seater in a horseshoe shape with plexiglass 6 feet apart. But it doesn't hurt to start us thinking about this, because the corona variant is galloping right along with the other variants of this virus. And so just something to be thinking about if we're going to retool our boardroom a little bit, in case when we do get a point where we got our vaccinations. I've got 5 more years to go before I hit the magic number. But once we do get vaccinated, we may want to just be able to still not open it up to the public, but be able to just meet in person. I miss meeting in person. And so just starting to think now ahead of time, and not just for the board, but for you guys to hold a few staff meetings. And then you're protected as well until you turn 75. No, until you get the shot. So that was my thinking, is just to get us thinking about it. Comments, Lisa?
Yeah, I've never sat in the diocese, but I can't imagine being able to talk to people on either side of you without having significant neck strain, because because the people, you're almost it looks like you're almost shoulder to shoulder with people on that. It looks like a very crowded situation. So at least knock it down to just 5 people sitting at the current one. Is that a 2-piece thing, or can it be opened up or on that?
I don't know. I'm sure that there would be, the bigger, the more,
Yeah,
there might be a riser with it, but I'm just thinking small, and maybe some desks in front, which would be 6 feet apart. And, maybe see about getting costs together for it. Because we may not have it in the budget. I don't know. It could be you know, 20,000, it could be 100,000. You know, that would be making it maybe not a priority, but I believe at some point we're going to need to retool.
Yeah, yeah, and it looks like, I'm just reading the managing face-to-face meeting protocols that's put out by CMEX on it. And yeah, it's the 6 feet and nobody facing each other for sure. And so looking into that and looking into how that can best be done. And I think limiting the number of people that are up in that confined space is going to be a super important thing moving forward.
Staff, please, your opinion.
I think the existing L shape, I thought I heard either Lisa or Barbara mention, is there a way to retrofit or re-engineer it? But I think we might have to do a more careful analysis. But my initial reaction, it's unlikely that can be retrofitted.
Okay.
I think it's built to be an L-shaped, and any reconstruction of it we would just have to start over and build something. And anything built from scratch is probably going to be very expensive. So I suggest if this is the committee's desire, it probably would be helpful if staff did a little research with this company and possibly others just to get what's out there. I think we have a general sense you want a horseshoe shaped that's COVID compliant. So that's sufficient information, I think, to
And I
start.
think just seating 5 people.
Just 5 and then a couple. So I think I heard Barbara say staff would be out maybe on the wings facing the board down below. I don't know. We can look at different options and lay it out, get some cost estimates. I think part of the awkwardness is just the room, but that it is what it is. We have to work with that room geometry. And then I guess for me, the last question is we think about researching this. I know some city councils and boards that I've worked with also wanted, I know it sounds a little silly, but I have to ask that you want a dais that is bulletproof. That does get into materials and potentially, no, I know people laugh, but you could Google these city council meetings.
I'm not laughing. I'm just upset that that is even something that we have to consider, but I understand.
I just want to be clear for research this. Yeah. You either tell me, yes, we want that as a consideration, or no, then it's clear.
I think having protocols for who comes into the building and what they're allowed to bring into the building would be a better call than making things bulletproof. Making sure people don't have bullets in the room would be the way to go, I think, on that one. I have one more question about the current say it again, Abby.
Dais.
The current dais. I've only seen it from the front side. I haven't seen it from the back side. Is it divided up into cubbies like on the back side for where the chairs are, or just completely open on the back side?
I don't know.
I believe it's open. It's just a tabletop, and then the chairs slide underneath, and there's also a ramp in the back to get up there.
It'd be interesting to see what the spacing would look like with 5 chairs instead of 7 chairs up there.
If I may say something, I think that with the 5-chair horseshoe, it would be 12 feet, at the radius. Okay. And, we could, I did talk to the guy, his name was Tom, and, he will make this to whatever specs we want. He seemed pretty open to talk about what we wanted and the size of our space. It could be where we have our force account create the riser, so that saves some shipping costs or whatever. And then when this thing arrives, we just plunk it down. We may want to retool it 6 feet apart for sure. Not only with the plexiglass, we'll be wearing masks as well, I imagine. but we would maybe also need to plan for phone jacks and things that just seem to be a pain right now that I have to reach behind as it stands now. And we've got some outlets, but it's a little bit clunky, and perhaps then underneath the riser that could be wired, if you will, for convenience, so that we don't, some of us have our phone there just like a field phone, to check on a piece of information. And it just be nice to have some of those things plugged in, or at least plan for it. But I think we can customize it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I was wondering what the spacing on the current one would be if you limited it to 5 chairs up there, of how much spacing we could get in that, just as a comparison as well. I don't think we can, I mean, like, I haven't done any measurements on anything, and I've only been in the room twice. So, and I haven't sat there or anything. So I don't know, but I can't imagine that you could get more than probably 3 feet between the people, even doing that on the current one. Does that sound about right?
Say that again?
If you were trying to utilize the current one with just
Yeah.
5 people, do you think you could get more than 3 feet between each human? Or we
Well,
definitely couldn't get
because
6, right?
you've got sort of a hypotenuse, right, on the L.
Yeah,
You've got a hypotenuse, and that would need to be 6 feet,
okay,
face to face. So
Yeah.
that's what makes it kind of, as I said, kind of clunky.
got it.
Um,
Cool.
But, we would have to build this, I would think, in the budget if we decided to go forward. It would be great if all of us could actually use it, especially if somebody came in for signing something, we were able to have those barriers. I'm just thinking about the future. Not all of us will be vaccinated, and not all of us will have 2 vaccinations. I mean, I'm hoping we're all going to get vaccinated, but I think we just need more protection. And so we would have to, find out, have staff do a little more footwork on this, and call Tom, or find a whole different outfit if there's, price comparison. I'm not saying just go with this one. This was just an example. And because he said, oh yeah, everybody's going this direction anyway. And maybe we could just at least find out how much that would cost to construct. And it just could be out of our range. We don't know until we get some data.
So what would you like to, hearing that, what would you like to make a recommendation on?
Yeah, I'd like to recommend that staff do a little more homework, not a whole lot, but just pursue 6 feet spacing, 5, and probably matching, desks in the front, and maybe include wiring too, because, Melissa would have to get wired in, or Lisa, when you're staffing the Granicus. That's what I would recommend.
And you're saying horseshoe, so people would be talking at each other across the thing, or are you meaning more open like that? Because it would seem that this would be safer than this.
Oh, yeah, no, the right. If it's a large arc, yeah,
Would be better.
yeah. And I would think, and really accessible. I mean, really make it ADA compliant.
Yeah. All right, does that complete us on that item? Or is there
Yeah, I
more?
think we got good notes, and so we'll look for a large arc that's COVID compliant. I agree with Barbara. If you're going to do this, you might as well have user-friendly AC outlets, as well as I would recommend USB chargers. I think that's kind of just the way everything is these days. With the COVID compliant 6 foot spacing for 5 and a couple of desks out front. So we'll see what we can dig up and maybe look at least 2 or maybe 3 companies and see what the costs look like, and if we decided to move forward, what kind of timeline we're looking at. And should have good information in time for budget workshops, so that if your board wants to move in this direction, you should have that information available for that discussion.
That would be perfect. And then so we'll just recommend that staff do a little more homework on this. And then when we present it then at a board meeting to get full board discussion on it, then we'll actually go with a direction. Okay, that sounds good.
This is not on the agenda, and I'm not asking for something to be put onto the agenda. Can I ask an informational question that isn't about that isn't one of the 3 discussion items?
Yeah, so in the Brown Act, we really should agendize topics, and maybe but I think it's fine to ask a question. We just can't spend a lot of time going down a certain path. So
yeah.
I
Okay,
think
so
maybe what we do is add a generic, report on the committee agenda, or future items. That way you could bring up some of these topics and take a little time discussing them.
okay, so this is just an ask of who, of kind of may I pursue this, and who would I pursue this with, is the question that I have. And I'm not sure who even to ask that to. But at the college, we have the reservoir and ditch system pieces within the college property. And we have students that would be interested in learning about the ditch system and the maintenance on the ditch system. Is there a way to create, we have work study classes. We also might have the ability to create like an internship type thing between TUD and the college to sort of discuss if that might be possible, or how that might work out. Who would the correct person to talk to within the TUD structure be?
What about the water committee? Could we agendize that for the water committee?
If you'd like, I think Abby has information on this. I know that related to this, Lisa, myself and a number of TUD staff was invited by your president to sit down and talk about the lake out there, dealing with non-native species, and facilitating a dock or an access for certain classes out there to have a real life laboratory. And we're totally on board with partnering with the community college out there. And we had a robust, healthy discussion. And I believe the college said they were going to draft, one of the professors said they were going to draft a kind of a summary of how we would move forward. And boy, that's been, I think, last year, and we haven't heard back. So I don't know if you want to talk to your president about that, because we were completely on board with moving forward and supporting that effort. I think it's very good. In fact, I've talked to Abby too about how we could help facilitate, some of our water treatment, wastewater treatment type curriculum, and try to get people, educated and hired within Tuolumne County, and basically have an educated workforce. So
yeah, we through Forestry and Natural Resources, we offer a watershed course, a wastewater management course, and a water treatment course is happening this semester. And so those courses are already offered, but we don't have any work experience stuff set up. And like some of our students do internships like with the Forest Service, and there's things that have been certainly utilized in the past. And so Tom Hofstra is the head of Forestry and Natural Resources, and that's who I was talking to about this side of things. Yeah, so cool. I will talk to Dr. B and see, do you know if is that who you were talking to?
Yes.
And see if what path was going. Do you know what professor you were talking to?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I know we were talking about the non-native turtles and fish, and it was probably in the kind of the biology department. It was a gentleman. I just don't recall the name off the top of my head. I mean, the college was represented by about 8 individuals in that meeting. I mean, it was a large group of people from the college, and then there were several of us, but it was a great discussion. They have big vision, and we were completely on board with it.
Do you guys have minutes from that?
No, but I could track down some notes, but it really was about the lake there and eliminating the non-native species that had taken over the flora and fauna there at the lake, and number 1. And then 2 was extending a kind of an access point into the lake to safely allow students to be able to collect samples. I think it was including water quality, but also having a small boat to be able to get out into the lake to do further sampling of the flora and fauna.
Yeah, we currently use boats.
Wait, point of order. We really are going down the path here.
Yeah.
But,
Cool. Well,
wait, I'm not done.
Yeah.
But this does fall within external relations. So why don't we agendize that and get all those players together, and we can put this as a number 1 for the next committee meeting.
yeah, well, I'll talk to Dr. B and see if there's any meetings from the college side on that, because somebody should have taken notes. It should have had minutes from it. So I'll see if I can get a hold of that and find out how far down the line it went and who were from the college side, rather than reinventing the wheel. We should continue with the wheel that's already there. And this is a different purpose, but it would be this, tagged onto the same sort of thing of just the community outreach between the college and the water district.
Great.
Yeah. And we have had some communication and interactions with the college. We've participated in many career fairs, both back when we did them live and via Zoom. And we have worked with the college and Mother Lode job training for work experience training and things. And then we also actually did hire a wastewater OIT in November, who is a current student there in the wastewater, in the water program there at Columbia College. So
awesome.
Yeah, but that's great. And then also, since we're talking about external affairs, I failed to introduce Lisa Westbrook at the beginning of the meeting. I just wanted to do that. I think everyone knows her, but Lisa Murphy. So Lisa Westbrook is our community affairs specialist here with the district. She's been here, I think almost 13 years now. And so anyway, so she is joining us for this purpose, and will most likely have items to bring to the committee and help out with you guys to get a better understanding of what we're doing here with that.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. And I just wanted to bring up, I do have a couple of items for consideration perhaps for the next meeting. There is the high school scholarship applications, and if the district wants to participate in that again and get that out to the high schools. I know Barbara was part of that last year with Jeff Kearns. So we can talk about that maybe in March possibly, but we do need to get that information out to the high schools if we want them to participate.
And this was for going to Columbia. We decided that.
Well, it was open to anyone with an interest in natural resources, water management. It was geared to someone going to Columbia College, but last year we didn't have any applicants that completed it that were for that. It was actually someone that was going to go to Humboldt that applied.
Then maybe we can agendize that and have that discussion, because okay, sorry. Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah, so the reason you wouldn't be getting high school students is all high school students get, I mean, if it's for paying the, is it just the scholarship for anything, or is it for paying the tuition? Because
It- it's-
all,
We had, I have like an application that we use, Director Murphy, and it had specific courses that are somewhat related to what TUD emphasizes on water management, natural resources, things like that.
so all high school students in the county get the first year at Columbia College free. And so if it's for doing, if it's for paying for their tuition, the high school students already get their tuition, and possibly books. I can find out exactly, but that might be the reason why you didn't get folks interested, is if they thought that they couldn't actually use it because it was already paid for. But so that was the question. Is the money, is it like $500 towards anything, or is it?
It's $500 that would go directly to their financial aid department. And so that's what happened when we had our applicant last year. It went directly to Humboldt.
Okay.
And then she knew that the money was there waiting for her as a scholarship. And so she could use it for whatever she needed through the college.
And are you guys married to the idea of it being only offered to high school students, or could it be offered to people who are going into their second year, who will then be paying, like, because the first year is, I can't remember what the program is called, but there's a program that covers local graduates from local high schools going to Columbia College. But then after 1 year, they're on their own for that. And so if the scholarship could be opened up to those folks who are going in for their second year, that might be.
So we could discuss that further in March and look at the parameters and anything you want to change on it. Last year was our first year doing it.
Okay.
So if we do want to participate, we do have a deadline with the high schools if we want them involved again this year.
Cool. And I can check with the counselors to find out exactly what the situation is for the local high school students coming to Columbia College. So
And we typically give 2, Lisa Westbrook?
Usually it's 2, but we only had 1 applicant that fit into looking into natural resources management last year. And Sonora High was just not able to get anyone really to apply that was looking at that type of major.
Okay, so our committee will meet again in March, and we can bring this up
Okay.
great.
and vet it. Okay.
And I'll do a little research before then.
And I have
Great.
one other topic that perhaps we can discuss in March. Tuolumne County has approached us as being a partner in getting out information about the Firewise communities.
Mhm.
They received a grant, monies to actually market, trying to get people to be interested in trying to make a Firewise community. And they sent me information on that and wanted to know if TUD would be a partner. So I have kind of an insert that we could look at, but they're wanting to know if we want to be interested in partnering with them on getting the word out.
I'd like to know a little more about that.
So we could talk about that in March too.
Perfect. That sounds great. All right, so we have our action items for going forward for the March meeting with the high school scholarships and the Firewise being part of the Firewise Community Grant. Anything else that needs to be discussed at this time?
No, just thank you for the opportunity today. It was good to meet with you all, and I look forward to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you all, and thanks for all of the knowledge you guys bring to the table and all of the work you put in behind coming to every day, and then behind coming to these meetings.